Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Paul's Monday Market Update for Monday, 4th of December, 2023. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a good weekend. Hope you're ready for what might be a very interesting week in markets. Anyway, before we start, just those of you in the room, if somebody could just confirm that you can see the slides and that you can hear me voice, that would be a great start. Okay, that always helps that the tech works. As always, if you're joining us for the first time, Paul's Monday Market Update is literally that. Okay, it is just a sort of a race through looking at the strength and weakness within FX markets. Also with looking at some charts of interest and then finishing up with a look at live markets. It is not a signal service. It's not trade recommendations. Purely what I'm looking at. You might find that useful or some things that you might want to add to your own watch list yourselves. As always, you're very welcome here. Just remember that you are responsible for your own trading decisions. And if you want a little bit more this afternoon, as always, I'll be doing my Monday Market Matters webinar for active trades this afternoon, 2 o'clock London time. Today, what I'll be talking about is how to add to our trades. And what I mean by that is how to turn a trade into a position by looking at a simple way to add to our overall trade setups. And if you want to join us, you can just take a quick shot of that QR code, and that'll lead you to where you can register. And as I said, that'll be 2 o'clock London every Monday that we do that. All right, let's crack on with our own stuff here. As always, look to start with the STAM, which is my analysis of the weekends. Okay, just looking at the bigger picture to identify where is the strength, where is the weakness within specifically FX markets, but then also indices and commodities markets. As that's what gives me the where I'm going to sort of focus my time, energy, and effort for the week ahead. All right, let's bring up the drawing tool here. Okay, so where are we? What are we looking at? Here we are, week 49 of the year for the 4th of December. We're looking at where's the strength, where's the weakness, what's particularly changed. And well, we've had a bit of a change over the last week too. So you can see that from last week where we had sterling and euro top of the pile, and that has not carried through. Okay, sterling slipped to 3. Euro had a pretty strong sell off week. Okay, then as you can see, it's slid pretty rapidly all the way back down that kind of strength matrix. Part of that will be a case of, well, part of that is the overall picture has been has been quite something over the last week or so, which we'll get onto in a moment in terms of moves that have happened, where and why and how. Part of that driver is a kind of belief by markets that they don't believe Mr. Powell when he sort of said on Friday that he wants, he's definitely looking to keeping sort of rates, higher for longer. The market's not believing him, and the market's now basically starting to price in the fact that he's going to be cutting rates. Okay, anywhere between March and May of next year, you can sort of take your pick, pin the tail on the donkey and stuff. But anyway, the market's not believing him. That has had a knock-on impact into things like bonds and the yields in particular and stuff. And that then has had an impact on US dollar. That had an impact upon an impact on a lot of other things. People just looking for somewhere to put their money, things like gold and Bitcoin, which we'll look at in a moment. But equally, also there is a belief that even though the ECB, Eurozone, were later to start their interest rate rise, that they may be cutting even before the Americans. Okay, and even this morning, the kind of data out of Germany is. It doesn't really fill you with great confidence. That's the way I would particularly look at it myself. I thought maybe we were seeing a little bit of a turnaround, but the kind of the data today and the data overall is not really anything to get terribly excited about. Okay, and so hence why we're seeing that euro weakness across the board. We're in that strange place where Swiss franc has kind of reclaimed, its second spot. Is that because it's doing anything brilliant? No, it's just probably not as mad as some of the other currencies that are going on there at the moment. Okay, and that kind of is just holding up the Swiss franc. Not unsurprisingly as well. If we are seeing big strong moves in gold, that's probably going to play into that. Dollars finally dropped into the bottom pair. Okay, that shouldn't really be a shocker. We've talked about this for a long time over these sessions. Okay, and it is joined. Well, it's joining CAD, which has been in the bottom pile for a while, and it's the CAD has just basically clipped its way there. With all of that, we have a kind of a new contender, for top of the pile, which is Kiwi dollar, all right, which is a kind of it's a very interesting one, that isn't it? When you consider that actually, literally, sort of, what's that, 5, 6 weeks ago, it was bottom of the pile, right? That is probably just a reflection of the kind of a little bit of the madness that we are seeing in FX markets, as there's clearly people sort of shifting their positions. There's also, I suspect, money that's been sat on the sidelines is actually now coming back in and looking for a home, looking for any kind of sort of yield. We live in a world where kind of 5% yield on their bonds isn't enough, all right? And that's what I think maybe people have come to the conclusion on that, and that's what another contributing reason to why we're seeing shifts abound. Yen has strengthened a little bit. It's finally out of the top of the bottom of the sort of the pile where it's been sat for most of it, for well, most of the year, to be fair. Whether that is just a long-term trend or whether that is just a bit of a dead cat bounce, I suspect it could be the latter. Some of the comments out of the Bank of Japan, over the weekend and today, have just basically don't fill you with any great deal of confidence. So that might just be a dead cat bounce, and it wouldn't surprise me if if the selling resumed. That's not what we've seen this morning. Okay, we're actually seeing basically yen has just nudged its way up, and pretty much everything else has been against the US dollar. I don't necessarily see that as a big shocker. Last week was there was a lot of selling there on off the dollar. Okay, a lot of selling across the board on some instruments. Okay, and no surprise there might be a little bit of a reaction to that. We'll look at that a bit clearer when we look at the actual charts themselves. Lots in the STAM environment, though, especially lots in the kind of COM as well. Whereas, a few weeks ago it was very thin there. Lots of buying and selling environments there. Sterling is maintaining a few of them, and as you can see, euro is just basically, from a few weeks ago being very bullish euro, we're either not, or we are actually even flipping to the selling side of the euro. So maybe we'll have a little look at that in a moment. And look at indices. Everything is a strategic buy, and even Russell, as we look at it, even Russell is kind of joining the party there. Okay, I've always said Russell's been the lagging one, all right. Well, you can see that visually when we look at the charts in a moment, but that's happened. DAX, even despite all the nonsense, okay, coming out of like Germany and ECB and Eurozone, okay, it is still rallying its way up there. Even FTSE is trying to act bullish, which we'll look at, whether that falls through. Oil, no surprise, that's been very bearish. Okay, gold, well, of course, I'm sure most of you who will have seen that the kind of A, the moves we got last week, and then B, the kind of how we opened up right this week. And well, we'll look at that. We'll look at the chart in a moment, along with its brethren, silver. VIX is low, and of course the Bitcoin has been bumping itself up, which we'll look at in a moment. So it's a bit of a strange week in that you've got stocks rallying, some of them towards their all-time high in terms of some of the indices. At the same time, gold is rallying. At the same time that Bitcoin is rallying. At the same time that we see some stocks kind of rally, some stocks slither, and also some of the FX pairs, okay, are not exactly, as I said, not exactly filling us with their confidence in terms of of what's going on with them, but it's probably easier to look at when we look at the charts at the moment. So it's let's just switch across and let's start move through. So as always, I've put up a few charts of interest. This is Gold Trust GLD, all right, which is a kind of like the ETF of gold. So it's not the spot. We'll look at that in a moment, but you can see for yourself weekly chart. It's a reflection of what we've been talking about in terms of the gold price for the last couple of weeks, and we'll look at that the actual live price in a moment. But you can see 190, okay, had been a kind of a level there, a bit like 2000 in the spot. But you can see for yourself last week, we kind of basically just clattered through that. Not only that, we closed high, and that reflects on to other things like the weekly close, the monthly close we saw on the spot, around which we'll look at in a moment. The pre-market's down a little sliver. That's no surprise because the spot rallied strong on the open and then has basically fallen back a bit. It wouldn't surprise me if we came back here on the ETF to see, if it retests 190 and does it then basically, a retest and go. Okay, that's what we'll look at. Why is that happening? Well, as I said, there are some of those things that, if the yields are already falling off, and last week was a pretty strong fall off in yields, the top across the sort of the 2, the 10s and the 30 in the US and such. So people might just be thinking, well, yields are going one way. We don't really care, that much. We'll go for the capital. We'll look at the capital growth in gold, okay, and they will have certainly got that. And as I said, we'll look at the chart of that in a moment. It's also interesting to me that the sort of the ceasefire in the Middle East did not last. We also had yesterday in the Red Sea some attacks against US naval ships and commercial shipping in the Red Sea and stuff, and they fought off a few attacks there. That will be interpreted by the powers that be, however they wish to interpret it. And what I mean by that is, we might see how that is utilised, okay, over the next couple of days. But invariably, that ceasefire ending, all of these things kind of have a little bit of a contributory element, all right, towards that kind of that bigger picture there, right? But no surprise that, interestingly to me, is that we're seeing gold rallying. And we've also seen some defence companies rallying there as well. So Boeing, Boeing, we look at it periodically. And those of you'll know me that I'm not the biggest fan of Boeing, right, as a share, as a company and stuff. But the thing is, you can't basically, this is what we've been normally used to. Boeing, kind of collapses. But the thing is, you can't avoid the fact that, having been down here at like $180, we are now, last week we had a really big, strong bullish week, closed up 233, and it wouldn't surprise me if we got back up to these recent highs up at 240. Okay, so you can see for yourself that the price action has. And one of the reasons I put these charts up is that even if you're not an special equity trader, I don't consider myself one. As a chart, you can look at a chart and find fascination and kind of interesting to look at how it plays out, how the price action plays out. For me, as those of you who joined us regularly say, I'm always identifying levels, and I want to see how does price react to those levels. Was it firstly act as a magnet and drawing to price towards it, and then B, how does price react when it is at those levels? Okay, and if, like, for example, here, where you got basically, you had a sort of small tightening inside bar, okay, pin bar, and then we rolled over. Okay, that's the kind of thing I kind of look to sort of see and feed off myself. But yeah, sort of defense stocks there. Okay, that defense stock has done well in a time when it hasn't been doing well at all. A bit closer to home. Okay, another defense stock, Airbus. Airbus is, has also had a bit of a rally there the last few weeks. Okay, and we're at the high for 2023, and we're also not just tickling the soft underbelly of the sort of, let's say, the pre-COVID highs that we saw in Airbus as well, up there just around about 140 euros. So yeah, there's ceasefires are finished. There are attacks in the Red Sea, gold rallies, defense companies rally as well. So make of that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. All right, you can draw your own conclusions from that. Okay, to see how that is playing out. Other versions of that, of course, are looking at the finance stocks. Okay, just I put in, this is UBS, which we've looked at on occasion. I was kind of fascinated by the fact that, considering they had basically gone through their kind of their merger with Credit Suisse here. Okay, we saw a couple of months there of a bit of volatile action. I didn't expect it to happen so quickly, that basically the price rallied well, and you can see that, and I think we talked about that, and then we came back in here. Okay, very nice bullish flag pattern ended by a bullish engulfing candle, Q reversal candle. That's what I like to see if I'm trading flags. But you can see for yourself, okay, it is also rallied strongly, which is interesting because there were rumours that it was struggling badly, especially with one of the kind of the, let's say, the bonds that they had taken on board from Credit Suisse. But the news seems to be that that's going to be okay, and they'll be starting to pay out in next year. we'll see what happens there. But listen, that's a perfect technical example. There's the flag, there's the flagpole, there's the basically the flag ends with a really bullish, strong candle. And the kind of the buys coming in, and you can see it's rallying its way up there. Okay, and now you're looking at, well, okay, is it going to get towards about $30? Big round number on that. That's what you'd be looking at that. But that's a reflection of actually, if you look across most of the finances, you can look at XLF. They have been doing well. Okay, they have been doing well at the moment. We look at another version of finance, or we'll look at another version of what lots of people always talked about as being digital gold, or the alternative to gold, Bitcoin. For a long time, we had basically been, pivoting around 20,000. Okay, pivoting around 20,000. All right, after those highs at 67, pivoting around 20,000, and then we had talked about it. As kind of like an ascending triangle at the end of a downtrend. Some people might have even seen this as a bit of a cup and handle. However you wanted to do it. Okay, 30 only acted as resistance for a while, and once it broke, well, you can see, we rallied our way up, and now, we've gone above 40. Okay, we've traded up I think it's about as high as over 42,000. There, that's quite something, isn't it? You can see on here, I've kind of a lot of my I've got standard like big round number lines in, because I think that things like Bitcoin, that's what it works. That people look at it, all right, along those lines of big round numbers. So now it's going to be a case of I think does it come out? Will 40 act as support? Okay, will it act as support? We can see that it has. Last time it was here, it pivoted around it. Admittedly, that was on the way down. Now you're going to look and see is it going to turn from resistance into support? That's what that's what we'll be looking at. And if we look at its brethren, Ethereum, which we looked at a couple of weeks ago, I think the kind of any sort of big moves on Bitcoin kind of people looking at it saying, well, can they catch the laggard? All right. Now, Ethereum, we looked at this a couple of weeks ago. It might have been we looked at it about how we had seen that once again, price had based at 1,000, and we talked about, was it kind of building an ascending triangle at the end of a downtrend. And we talked about how 2000, we had seen that basically it had rejected it. But what we had seen over the last month is we closed above it. And then you can see for yourself that basically, a bit like what I was just talking about with Bitcoin and 40,000, around gold, we'll be looking at gold or GLD 190 and stuff. Is a case of it, is that resistance now going to turn into support? You can see on Ethereum it has, right? And now we've bounced away and we've traded away. Okay, and I'd be looking there. Then okay, well, where is the kind of the next level that's going to act as a bit of a magnet? And I'd probably be looking around about 2,500 personally. That's what it'd be. Some people might be looking different, but I think if we're going to go, I think I suspect we sort of kind of pull back and then go towards 2,500 if we are going to get a sustained move in Ethereum. So there you go. Crypto's up, gold's up, defense companies are up. Make of that what you will. All right, let's switch across to the live charts, shall we? See how we see what's going on there. So just bear with me a moment, and we'll just switch across. Right. Okay. So here we go. Here's just my indices. Okay. So I've got Dow, Nasdaq, S&P, Russell, FTSE, Nikkei, DAX, and oil. Okay. So I'm hoping that you can probably see, across here on the weekly charts, what we've got here is kind of interesting in the way that you can see here, Russell, which we talked about, had been lagging. Russell last week, had a really strong bullish week, and it closed above the 50. Okay, finally above the 50. We can see S&P 500, is not that far away. Okay, from recent highs. Okay, and that's just some move itself from those kind of lows in October. If you looked at, very nervous there. We are now back almost close to those highs. We have been with Nasdaq, but if you look at it, the kind of the price action there, it's been basically just kind of starting to take a pause there. Okay, at 16,000, all right, that pause of those recent highs. Dow has kind of gone through its 2023 highs, and now you're looking at how far is it away from basically clattering up to those kind of these highs that we saw back in 2021, back at the start of 2022. Can it go to those drawings? Can it clear that and do that? Okay, that's and just look at that. That's quite smooth. On the first end of September to October, I was very nervous. I thought we'd be down towards that 200, but bosh, there are big boys who've got off the sidelines there, haven't they? And basically just bought their way into that one way or another. And that is what's pushing us there. Okay, and you'd be a fool to fight that. All right, you'd be a fool to fight that. That is just big boys using their money, okay, and employing their money. The Nasdaq, as I said, is up to the highs, okay, of the year. But I'm looking, as I said, I'm always looking to see how does a price react when it's at a level. This is sat underneath it. Okay, it's sat underneath it. If you look at the daily chart, there's been a couple, you might even say a bit of a double top, some rejection candles there. Okay, at that kind of area. So I would be, I would be watching that to see if how that particularly looks to play itself. Excuse me, apologies. DAX, all right. Look at DAX in the weekly chart. From I talked about, but September, October, we were looking at basically, getting beneath 15,000, which we did, and then it just became, a space for a morning star, and we've just rallied up there. Now you're looking at, highs, all-time highs there. Okay, not too far from it at all, despite the kind of, let's say, less than exciting news about the German economy. It just doesn't care. This is just being dragged up, okay, by I suspect, kind of American giddiness. Your view would be, if there's going to be a Santa rally, okay, you might sort of say that's already happened, all right. That basically has to get up and assault those highs there, hasn't it? Got to get up and assault those kind of previous highs, and give us an idea and decision on where it's most likely to go. On the flip side of that, FTSE is the laggard here. Okay, we talked about it breaking out of this coiling up, and last week is, that is, I would look at that as a bullish momentum pin bar, as in, the lows are all getting higher. Okay, it's my view is, if that bullish play is going to follow through, it has to rally its way up to the 50 there. That's what I'll be looking at. Okay, we're above the 50 on the daily chart. Okay, which we've not been for about 6 weeks. The question is, is it gonna work its way up there? Is it going to hold it? And really, I'd be saying it needs to get above the 200 to consider it being bullish. Oil, oil is just basically, it's come off, and that's, you can see it's just holding beneath the 50. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's just literally the 50 is acting as real dynamic resistance, and now we're sat between the 200. The weekly 200, which acted as support, okay, 6-7 months ago, and the 50 is going to be acting as resistance. And the question is, are we going to get squeezed? Okay, we're going to get squeezed in towards the end of the year. Look at the daily charts. Nothing. I wouldn't exactly say that's terribly pretty there myself on the daily chart, but the bias is bearish on that. Looking at some of the commodities, so we had a little look at GLD, but if we look at gold, all right, okay, spot. The interesting thing, this is the monthly chart. That look at the last month's, all right. We've had having hit 2,000 and coming away from it. We put in that big bullish. It's an engulfing candle, it's a key reversal candle, and then last month is the highest monthly close. At highs there, okay, and then we pushed through to highs, okay, at the start of this session, which is not a massive shock, because if you remember, for those of you joining us last week, okay, I talked about last week about how, we would be pushing up against 2,000, and we had gapped up. Last week, we gapped up into it, okay? Gapped up on the open, and you can see we never really got anywhere near beneath it, and we just basically rallied our way up, and then bang. And, that is unusual for like a Sunday night. Sunday night buying that, okay? Buying that much to push it that far, you've got to start scratching your heads and start saying, who's doing that? Why are they doing that? Is that just a knee-jerk reaction to the end of the ceasefire in the Red Sea? Or is that part of something, something bigger and wider? I think we'll find out, this week and stuff. But you can see it just popped its way up there at the start of the session, but it's come all the way back down. It's been trading at about 2070 and stuff. That's kind of an interesting one there. Okay, that's going to throw a lot of people. I would suggest. Interestingly, silver, which has also had a good couple of weeks, that's kind of like that's kind of done a little bit like what gold did in we gapped, not really gapped up, kind of just pushed up at the start of the session, but we've fallen all the way down. We're sat on that 200 there. Okay, maybe we'll wait till the American session opens and see what the shove we get from that. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the dollar. We'll have a little look at dollar, euro, and sterling if we get time to fit it in. So the dollar has been, we've talked about it for weeks and stuff about how that kind of that dollar has been just basically rolling itself over. Dollar index here, weekly chart. Now, interestingly, we came down, but we're at the 50, but there was some rejection there in the daily chart there. Okay, the end of last week, we did have a little bit of a. You might say that's a morning star formation ball. It didn't really follow through particularly nicely. It still helped and got back beneath the 200. It's this kind of like 103 area. All right, 103 is can this hold? If this just has flipped to being resistance and we start to see moves back down towards it, well then I think the moves we have seen in things like Bitcoin, gold, and so particularly, they will accelerate higher as well. That's what I would be particularly looking. That's what I'd be particularly looking for on that. I don't see much there. Okay, and certainly on the intraday basis and dollar index, nothing there really getting me terribly excited. If we look at, in fact, we're not going to look at euro because I'm going to look at euro dollar in a minute. Okay, we look at euros, but dollar Swiss franc has continued. Okay, and we saw Swiss franc, it can move back up the pile. Right. Okay. There's been a little bit of a reaction this morning. Not a surprise after a strong month, a strong week. Okay, of dollar weakness. And we've also seen, as I said, Kiwi dollar has kind of had that jump to the to highs as well, which has kind of been a bit strange. That while as even the Canadian dollar got a little bit of love out of the US dollar. Japanese yen, you can see for yourself there, right? We've that work has been done all by the dollar, not really much by the yen there, okay, but you can see for yourself that has just followed itself through on there, okay. So with that, of course, we've got we've got data all week, okay, coming into the end of last week and stuff, and we'll have all of that plenty to go through, okay, and then we'll get a bit more clarity on dollar, I suspect. What have we got here? Euro, as I said, after that great run. Euro, okay, we've had a run there, but then last week, look at that. It's an engulfing candle. It's a bearish close. I'd call that more of a high wave candle because there's plenty of wicks to either side. So it's more on the indecision than complete. But despite that kind of dollar weakness, euro weakened last week as well, and it weakened. You can see how quickly it's weakened against sterling. There's kind of significant moves, even against Japanese yen. It has weakened there. Okay, it's reversed its way there. If we look against euro Aussie dollar, we had a really strong strong Aussie weak, euro weak. We also had it against the Kiwi dollar, even against the Canadian dollar. All right, even against the Canadian dollar, which has been in the bottom of the pile, and then also even against Swiss franc. Okay, we had that kind of strong move. Okay, it's the price action has been a bit of a strange one there. Okay, in euro Swiss franc there. So euro is weakening. I think whilst the action might be in the US market dollar, you can't rule out basically that kind of euro weakness story as well, okay, because it's happening. And just a quick look, as I said, Kiwi dollar has kind of come out of nowhere really to see itself strengthen. It's strengthened the last couple of weeks, even against the Swiss franc, okay, strengthened against the sterling, okay, strengthened against Canadian dollar, which is maybe not that much of a thing, but strengthened against the euro, strengthened against the dollar, strengthened against the yen, and strengthened against the Aussie. So you can, discern your own particular reason or desire for that. Okay, but the thing is that that has happened. Whether that's going to be a long-term trade or whether this is just a reaction to everybody else weakening, is another matter. Okay, but it's there across the board. You can see it on the charts. All right, let's quickly finish with sterling as always. So start with cable. Last week another dollar weakness, sterling strengthening week. Okay, there. If we look at the daily chart, though, we had, we printed an evening star. Okay, at the end of the kind of the month. But that kind of got washed away there. It's a bit of a. If you look at that 4-hour chart, if you look at that 4-hour chart for cable there, okay, for the last part of the last week, I was looking here. To me, that was a great DTB 123 top. All right, a double top trading back in towards the 50. But then, as we got towards the end of the week, and Powell was speaking, that basically he wasn't playing there. Pound against yen, having pushed to the highs of the year. You remember what I was talking about a couple of weeks ago? This was it's a really big, strong, bullish, engulfing, momentum candle. Okay, as in, it's been with the main trend and momentum. But as I always say to new traders, when I see big, when I see bullish engulfing candles like that, I want to see them here at the end of a downtrend. When I see them at the end of an uptrend, I can't help but think, is this the last people to the party? And we saw last week, you can see all that happened is it just turned into a bearish inside bar, and we've drifted away off that there. Okay, so it's no surprise there. Okay, good for our chart. No surprise that having had that really strong week, well, last week, we kind of sold off out of it. That's when I see that, I'm always interested. We've seen that euro sterling is kind of sold off. Pound against Swiss franc is that kind of, you look at the price action there for last month. Pound against Swiss franc under 111, around the 50, just pivoting. All right, if you're a trend trade off the daily chart, pound Swiss is giving you no love. All right, just giving you no love. If you're a swing trader, swinging ranges, okay, well then you've got some joy out of it. But if you look even the last thing of the day, it's just 111, 1050. It's just pivoting around there. Okay, that's just, there's nothing to get excited about there at the moment. Certainly, if you're looking for a long-term swing trade. I said pound against New Zealand dollar has come down. Pound against Aussie, my kind of the monthly move trade. Okay, finally, basically hit its 190 target. Okay, that's what we were looking for. I was a bit worried that we were starting to get a little bit of higher lows and stuff, but we've come down to that area, and now I think we just pivot around 190 and see what happens there with that. Okay, then, ladies and gentlemen, sorry we overran a minute or two. Apologies, but I hope you found that useful. I hope that's given you a little bit of insight into what's going on. As the markets are a little bit mad at the moment, and it's going to be, I think, an interesting week as we see reactions to some of the moves that we have particularly seen, and we've got a bit of big news coming out. So as I said, as I always say, keep your powder dry. Okay, wait for the good opportunities. Make sure you're managing risk. As I said, those of you who want to listen to more, I'll be on Active Trades in about an hour's time. VTP people, stage 1 call be tonight, stage 2 call be tomorrow as normal. For the rest of you, I hope you have yourselves a great trading week, and I will speak to you soon. Many thanks, everybody. Cheers.